Thank you for tuning in with us every Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. About our host, Carlotta Taylor is not just a survivor of child abuse, but has grown into what we come to know as our personal thriver against all odds, who no longer flinches at adversity, but overcomes with authority. Carlotta decided to find the courage to say yes to herself. Miss Taylor has piece by piece faced her biggest adversary, the brokenness, and healed not only herself, but has also affected thousands through her outreach and influence. Carlotta Taylor is the author of the best-selling book, No More Flinching. Getting to the heart of the matter has always been what Carlotta is about. To keep in touch, text Carlotta to 888-111. It's time for the show to begin. It wouldn't be the same without you, because this is the place people bond worldwide, sharing powerful stories, prevailing over adversity. The heart of the matter is the people's joy. Now, turn your attention to our host, Carlotta Taylor, as the show begins.
Have you ever noticed controlling mechanisms coming from someone? Have you ever noticed them to try to buy your love? Have you ever been in a situation where they want to pull you from your family, isolate you? Well, those are some red flags that you might want to pay attention to, because that could cost you your life. An overcomer, someone who's been there, done that, took a licking and kept on ticking. Joining us today is Sheila Bryan, a native of Colombia. Welcome to the show, Sheila. How are you today?
Good evening. Thank you so much, Carlotta, for having me tonight on this show. It's such a privilege. I am excellent. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic, Before we jump right into your story, which is so amazing, I want to ask you, what does getting to the heart of the matter mean to you?
Oh, that's a great question. Getting to the heart of the matter is getting to the core. It's getting to the truth. It's getting to the bottom of it, right? It's just getting to the main, what we call the meats of things, so that we can know where we are.
Wow, that's so powerful. I love that. Getting to the heart of the matter, the core. That's my kind of language right there. Let's just go ahead and roll it out. Childhood development is so essential, and it's really connected to adulthood. And a lot of people want to just say, oh, I'm grown, I'm an adult, right? I make my own decisions. But a lot of adults are walking around like broken children on the inside, because they never healed. But let's just roll it back, because childhood development is very key. Tell us how you grew up. Take us back to that young little girl, Sheila, and give us some pointers.
Great question to go into my childhood. Obviously, for me, writing my book now is it's a beautiful experience to just revisit that little girl. I remember at 6 years old, it was when my parents split up. I did not understand why, but it was something that it remained taboo for many, many years. It was a taboo conversation why they split up. But I remember having an experience where I felt like something was ripped from me, like a piece of me was taken when my parents split up, right? So I was taken to my maternal parents' home, and that's where I began to experience a new journey of my life. So I went from being a 6-year-old kid, learning to navigate this life without my dad, and looking up to other men around me, which was my grandfather, my uncles, and there were obviously different type of figures, male figures around me. And at the age of 13, so I'm going to fast forward to the age of 13, because through that period, I had to adjust. I had to adapt to a new life. I had to really learn what it was to be independent. I basically was forced to grow up fast. Let's put it that way. So by the age of 13, I remember going through the motions and just not even remembering so many adventures or so many parts of my childhood for the 6 to 13 gap, because why? I was numb. I lost a part of me, and I feel like that part of me, my memory just went blank. And I know that's what we're talking about. That childhood development process is like being able to remember things about your childhood. A great gap of my childhood was just completely blank for me, because a piece of me was ripped out, a piece of me was taken. And it was just difficult for me to adapt to that lifestyle of not having my parents. And my mom left. That was another thing that happened. On top of losing my dad for their split up, my mom decided that she wanted to come to America, to what they call the American dream. And that eventually turned into her nightmare. But I had my parents both gone. It was difficult to now be my grandparents were great grandparents, but my grandma, who raised 8 kids already. You imagine having to raise 8 kids and now inheriting 2 granddaughters. That's more than what most people would want to bargain for, right?
Right. Wow.
So for me, it was just hard. It was hard for me to adapt to the life around my grandparents without my parents. So there's a gap in my childhood that caused me a trauma. I want to say that's when my trauma started. That lost. I felt like I was abandoned. So we're going to go to that. Abandonment was what I would consider a reality for me at that age, between 6 and 13.
Wow. Between the ages of 6 and 13, the abandonment issues that were planted, do you feel that impacted your adulthood in any way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The reason why I believe it, for me, it created a sense of dysfunction and normalcy. I didn't really care. I didn't really feel like it mattered to me to hold on to relationships or to attach myself to people. So it was easy for me to just walk away. Like, okay, I've lost my mom, I've lost my dad. So, I didn't care. To me, it was just not something that I didn't nurture relationships properly. So it affected my cultivating of relationships, especially healthy ones. So definitely it affected me.
Wow, Sheila, I just think you just really got to the heart of the matter. Thank you for being so transparent, because you just said, because I experienced so much loss, your shining star, because that's what, when we look up to our parents and we're children, they are our everything. And to have that taken away and no longer have that, it's like, what's to life now? What is it? What does it mean? And growing up through that, I can relate. I can definitely relate. Relationships are just like, okay, whatever. I done lost my mom. I lost my dad. So what's the worst that can happen? Kind of mentality.
Right.
I definitely understand. I can relate to that. How did life unfold for you in your later teens? So you explained to us from 6 to 13. How did things pan out for you rolling out up until around 20?
So I lived with my father. Because I was in that life with my grandparents, and that lifestyle was dysfunctional. My sister and I were being raised by our grandparents, and it was an incident that took place at my grandparents' home that led to us being taken and placed back with my father at the age of 13. So now I had to, again, a whole new norm. I had to be stripped away from the life that I knew to go start a whole new life with my dad, which was my dad. You would think that's my dad. It should be a normal, it should be a welcome, and it should be like, oh my God, I'm back with my dad. But I had not been around him for so long, so I was detached. So I had to learn how to reconnect with my dad, relearn him, get used to him, know who he was as a man who was partaker of my life, right? So between the ages of 13 and 16, living with my father, it was a very different experience, because my dad was in a relationship where he was raising his partner's daughter. So I remember growing up resenting my dad, because when I moved in with him and I learned that he was raising a girl around my age, I questioned, why me? Why did you not choose me? Wow. So there was resentment that began to cultivate in me as a young teenage girl towards my father. And my mom passed away at 16. So now I'm resenting my dad, and the greatest loss that I could have ever experienced, that was another escalated level of trauma. I call it the bigger trauma that I experienced, losing my mom to domestic violence in America. So I could tell you that 3-year gap was probably the way I lost myself completely. I don't want to say I began to be promiscuous, because I wasn't promiscuous, but I was so hurt, I was so lost, I was so broken, that I allowed myself to give up of my purity. I gave up my purity prematurely because I lost myself. I lost who I was. I did not care. I rebelled against everything that was moral core that was taught to me growing up. All of that went out the window with the loss of my mom and resenting my father and trying to figure out and understand what did I do for these people to turn their backs on me when they were the reason why I am here.
Wow, you just tapped into something I don't hear a lot of, kind of like uncharted territory, when you spoke of how you felt as a little girl. You lost your mom, now you're with your father, and he's literally raising another child, spending more time over there than he does with you. And so now you went from feeling abandoned to even more abandonment and neglect.
Yes.
And so all of this while, this is steady building you up, steady building you up. And that's just really got to be a lot. Thank you for diving in and really getting to the heart of the matter with your story, because you're an open book right now. And I'm sure the audience of the Heart of the Matter are enjoying what you're sharing, because it's so impactful. There's so many people out there that are experiencing that, and maybe they felt it and they've held on to it and they never knew, like, aha, this is where this bad energy that's still in me was coming from, because I experienced the same thing that Sheila is talking about, or something similar. Thank you for sharing that. That's powerful. Let's roll out. How did life pan out for you, like in the 20s? How were those years? And just bring us up to speed with the adversities of the relationships and the domestic violence.
Right. So, I mean, I learned a lot of things with my father. Of course, it took a lot of growth. It took growing personally and spiritually, emotionally, because again, I was just a broken young teenager who didn't understand all of this scenario. So now, my senior year in high school, my dad promised me that if I could just finish high school, he promised a trip to America. So I decided that I was going to definitely obey my father, and I graduated with high school honors, and he brought me to the U.S. We came to Miami in 1999, so I was about 17 years at that time. So when I came to America with my father, I tell you, for the first 90 days, when you come to America as a tourist, they only give you 90 days. Like, you gotta stamp your passport, and they tell you you gotta leave here in 90 days, right? But I decided that I wanted to stay. But the 90 days that my father and I spent together here, we bonded. I learned a lot of things about my dad, that I learned to forgive my dad before he went back to my country. I made a spiritual and an emotional conscious decision to forgive my dad and to let go of everything that had happened prior to this trip to America, because I saw him in a whole new light. He sacrificed time, energy, and money to reward me, and it brought me to another country. He showed me something that was love for me. Like, I love my dad today, right? I love him like I've never loved him before. But I learned to love my dad because I understood the sacrifice, and I understood when I became a parent as well, even more so, that sometimes you don't know what you're doing. I mean, this thing is like a as you go, right? It's a as you go, you learn. So in my teens, my late teens, when I decided to stay in America, my father and I had a conversation that was so emotional, because he said to me, "Now I'm leaving you in this country, daughter." I was maybe 3 months shy of my 18th birthday, so he was petrified to leave me because I had no family in this country. We were staying with someone that he knew, an acquaintance of his. And this woman said to my father, "I'll take care of her. I'll watch for her. I'll, keep an eye on her, whatnot." So my father felt comfortable with leaving me. So I turned 18, and shy of my 18th birthday, I got a job as a live-in maid in a Jewish home in Miami, and that was my first job, being a maid living in, this home. And at 18, I met who then became my husband. I met this man at the mall, just as a teenage girl, just doing my thing, shopping and having a good time. I met this man who seemed at the time to be nice, but I was still young and naive, right? Didn't understand much about life, because guess what? I was not taught anyway about, man. I wasn't taught about what to look for. I didn't understand relationship. I didn't even really know myself that well yet. All I did was just forgive my father for the resentment, but there was still some work that needed to be done. So I was not cautious. I did not know red signs, red flags, none of those things. All of that came with trial and error. It came with real, true, hardcore experience.
Wow. Give us an example of some signs, some red flags that you noticed in the beginning. And then it's a two-part question, to give us some signs of what did you do to kind of fight off paying attention to the signs?
I wasn't even aware, honestly. And I think that's what happens a lot of times with women, that we are not aware, we're not conscious, we don't know what we don't know. But I can tell you that there were some things that I would say that made me uncomfortable. And I think that's the beginning sign. When you are uncomfortable, when someone makes you uncomfortable, you don't ignore that. But I did. So one of those things that made me uncomfortable was this man, he felt, a lot of times he felt like he wanted to control, what I wear, right? When we go out on dates, or when he would call me and ask me if I'm ready to get picked up by him, he would always want to know what I'm wearing. And if I wasn't wearing something he liked, he would tell me to change my clothes.
No, ma'am.
Yes, I was young. So here's something that I want to just reveal. It was 18 and he was 32. He lied to me when we met. He told me he was like 24 or something like that. And I believed him, right? I did not really think about, okay, let me ask for an ID. Let me just call your mom and see, like, what's your real age? I mean, who does that, right? So I just believed what he said. And he clearly groomed me. He took his time with me, right? I saw some things that made me uncomfortable, but when it comes to being in a grooming process, when you're getting to know someone and you liking them, you begin to make excuses for them too. And that's something that every woman who experience abusive, toxic, or unhealthy relationship that's one of the things that we do. We make excuses for our abuser. Because I did that. I was in denial as well. I didn't want to honestly just really ask myself, why am I putting up with this again? Right? But another reason why was because I was also aware that I had overstayed my permit in this country. I was now considered an illegal immigrant. And he knew my situation. He knew that I was in a critical situation when it came to my status in this country. And I believe he leveraged that for his advantage. He leveraged that and he decided that he was just going to continue to court me and he was going to date me. He was going to make sure that I fell in love with him, so that there was no reason why I would say no.
Wow. So he had an agenda. And I must admit, Sheila, I've heard of women either playing down their age, saying they're older, or men acting like they didn't know that it was a child. I've never heard of a man downplaying his age to get with younger women. And you just exposed something that people need to watch out for.
Oh, of course, it happens more than you can think, Carlotta. The reality is there's a lot of men who, we understand, they prey, right? There's always a predatorial type of spirit. And when you're not aware of what a predatorial spirit is, or what their behaviors or the telltale signs, there's a daily method of operation, right? There's an operating method in which men who are clearly trying to prey on women, and it just happens to grown women too. It didn't just happen to me as a teenage girl. We're talking that this happens in society, where men, I mean, if it's not their age, it's clearly something else. It is their social status, their financial status. There's always something that is concealed, that is utilized, and is a weapon to bring this woman in and lure her in, right? Until sometimes you're just so caught up that it's too late. You're already in that relationship. Your heart is already compromised. Your emotions are already attached and compromised.
Wow. Oh my gosh. We're going deep, deep, deep. Before we go into the next part of your story, we're going to get a little more deeper, because you've overcame some hardcore adversities when it comes to overcoming domestic violence. And we're going to tap into that. But first, let's see, we can. I'm trying to see if I can do this real quick. One moment. Try this one more time. I want to share something, if I can. Is this right? Yeah, that's right. And I want to let the audience see some work that you have done. One moment. Bear with me while we work out these little technical difficulties. We should be good. Let's go. See if this will work. Let's try to see. It's not sharing. Well, it looks like it's not sharing right now. I'm gonna try. I guess I might try again. Come on, come on, technology. Where are you when I need you to work? Let's see. We're gonna try this one more time. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I see what it's doing, what it's not catching. It's unfortunate when this happens because what we had is very special. We'll try one more time, Sheila.
Keep trying, because I know that meant a lot.
So powerful. This is what happens when life tries to come at you. Come on now.
I just talked about that earlier on my life, which was to stay on track. Like, let the distractions be nothing but the motivation to just
absolutely
press.
Come on now. Why are you not showing up? We're just gonna see. We're gonna take a little minute real quick to see if we can get this to work. Maybe if I do it this way. How about this? One moment, Sheila. Cancel this. Bear with me for a few moments. I'll work this thing out. All right. Sheila, still acting funny.
I'm sure it will happen. I'm confident it happens. I do lives as well, and I can tell you.
You see how it's trying to work with me? Oh my!
It's one of those times when we just have to keep persevering, and we understand that people are watching and they just want to know they're excited to be a part of the live conversation. But sometimes you don't want to cheat them out of some great.
You don't want to cheat nobody out of anything.
No,
not today. Hold on.
Not when tonight is to the core and it's meaty. No.
Exactly. So this is here. All right. All right, so we're going to try this again. One more time. Now, here. 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 So it's really acting really weird right now. But I know the internet and social media has been acting up for the past few days, and I do not understand why. And I'm just going to try one more time just for GP. Because I don't like to quit. I don't like to quit.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling.
Like quitting? Like just to give in? No. Oh, no. I like to persevere and press through. Let's try this.
Press forward, of course.
What's happening is there's something going on with the software. And it's just not picking it up. And so for the sake of time and for the sake of your amazing story and what we need to capture, we're going to move past. We're going to go ahead and move past. We're going to keep it moving for right now. I may try again.
Come back to it, yeah.
Just to see if it'll work within our time, a lot of time. But thank you, everybody. Y'all are so. Look at them in the comments. They are cheering it on. They're saying correction is motivation. Distractions are motivation. I firmly agree. Come on, good energy. Yes. So, what was the hardest thing you could say you endured during that abusive relationship where you knew this is the last straw?
was having children and exposing them to this dysfunction, because I knew growing up in dysfunction, it was literally it robbed me of my identity. So I was robbing my children from that some sense of normalcy and a childhood experience that they will never forget. So I wanted to make sure that for me, one of the hardest things that I had to do was to literally walk away. I had to let go. I had to walk out of that home with my 3 children and baby diaper bags on me, and that was it. I said no more, because enough was enough. And I can tell you one thing, Carlotta, when it comes to being in an abusive relationship, women will get to that place of enough is enough. But there are women who don't. There are women who don't get to that place, and it's too late. My mom was one of those women, right? Her life was taken in domestic violence because she really couldn't get out. And I made a decision that I wasn't going to be a statistic, and I was not going to be a second generation who would die out of the hands of an abusive husband. I wasn't going to do that. So I made a decision to break that curse, that cycle, for the sake of my daughters. Because I had 2 daughters at the time, 3 years old and a 2-year-old. And I looked at my children and I said, this will not be your grown adult story. What I'm going through will not be your story, because it stops. It ends with me.
Wow. That's so impactful, and I'm so apologetic from my heart to learn that you lost your mother at a young age, but not only that, to domestic violence. So this thing is real.
Yes.
It's very real. And then to turn around and experience that yourself, but to live through it. Thank God you lived through it.
Grow through it. I grew. I became the best version of who you see today.
Come on, beautiful. Yes, ma'am. Don't get me started. You know how we'll get off camera now. Wow. And I love the fact that you endured what you endured, but when it came to your children, you was like, that's where you drew the line.
That's right.
And that's a real mother right there. When you put your children first, and you're like, I do not want to see my children endure this. And you took responsibility for your actions, even though you were the victim.
That's right.
That is extremely key. With my background in law enforcement, oftentimes, and I know most victims, they don't want to hear this, and I myself have been in a situation where I was actually a victim of domestic violence in 2 isolated situations, and I've never really shared that before, but I will be sharing it soon. And the key is, Sheila, and I know you know this, the victim has a responsibility too.
Absolutely.
The victim has a responsibility too. And we cannot hide in the shadows of what we call love, because that's not a safe place to be. And I'm so grateful that you are standing here today. You're sitting here sharing your story as beautiful as ever, with strength from pain to purpose. I love that phrase. Simply amazing. So let's talk about, before we talk about what you're doing now and how you overcame it, like how did you go through that? You made your mind up. You said, you know what, that's enough. And before we get to how your next steps were, let's go ahead and have a really quick commercial break, and we will be right back.
Champion, last one standing, you a champion. Anybody winning, you a champion. Everybody winning, you a champion. 24/7, nothing in between. All of this loaded and turn me a king. To be the greatest, you gotta compete. Hot like the sun, I'm bringing the heat. One verse when it can't stop. I was made to win, it was made as a copy. It's obvious, I bodied this. So if we top 10, I'ma top the list. Gotta do it for your team, put the city on the map. Never argue back, tell them look at the stats. No matter where you at, leave it all on the track. Cause winners gon' win and the losers gon' chat. Yeah, you can tell by my step on the field, I'm a champion.
I'm Marshall Thompson, the Unknown Warrior, WKA MMA National Champion. If you want to be the best, come train with the best.
Amazing. So we have the amazing Sheila Bryan. She is sharing her story of how she overcame so many different things, not just domestic violence. She overcame losing her mother to domestic violence. She overcame being isolated, feeling like she's a stepchild when she was with her own biological father, who spent more time with another child than he did with her. And then she would grow up later in life, dealing with those issues and having things come out of her that she didn't understand, memory loss, and then seeing her own self being a victim of domestic violence. But she stands here strong today. So join us as we tap back into her story. Wow. Wow, wow. I want you, Sheila. Shayla, I'm sorry. It just looks like Sheila, and it's so easy to say Sheila, but it's Shayla.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, it's Shayla. If you would, walk us through how you had the strength, Shayla, to overcome it and just know that you was going to trust God and everything would work out. How did that look for you?
Oh, that's a great question. And I'll go to my childhood. Obviously, I was always in church. I mean, I grew up in church. So I believe that what is really critical to know that whenever you are raised and exposed to the love of Christ, you're exposed to, who Jesus is. As a young kid, you might not really understand what that looks like, what that means, or what that really is. But over time, as I grew older, as I got mature, as I got into my adult age, and I was going through this crisis, and I found myself, 4 or 5 years into the same situation in this very toxic, very unhealthy marriage, I knew this was not the life that I envisioned for myself. I knew in my heart, this isn't the life that I came to America to live. And obviously, this isn't the life that I wanted for my children. So what was the last straw for me was that last fight with my husband at that time. We had our very last physical fight over the children, right? I was so fed up. I was so tired. I was like, I'm ready to go. I don't want to do this anymore. I had gotten to my sick and tired, emotional state. And I said, I'm leaving. And I wanted to take my children with me. And he refused to. He refused to allow me to take my children. And we got into this physical fight. It was a fist fight. And I remember calling the cops and I'm saying to them, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I need help. I need out. And I want out. So obviously at that time, the cops came, they took me, they took the children. We were able to go to a shelter, right, for battered women, because once I say enough is enough and I called 911 and help came, they took us all. We went to this shelter for battered women. And that's where my life started because I got therapy, I got counseling, I got help, professional help. This wasn't your girlfriend's conversation. This wasn't like, the neighbors when you just having casual conversation. Oh, what happened? No, this was real hardcore therapy. And then what I realized as well, Carlotta, when I was in the shelter with those other battered women, that there were women who also overcame being shot, being stabbed, being ran over by a vehicle. I mean, when I tell you those stories, I sat among women who have overcome as well. So I felt so encouraged and I realized that I am grateful that I got out because they got out. And I felt that that was the right thing to do. And it was a shift completely. So through therapy, I mean, that was 90 days of 3 to 4 times a week, sitting in a space where I had to be open and I had to be vulnerable. And I heard other women's story, and all of us had one thing that we echoed. We just knew deep down that he was going to hit, that he was going to abuse, that he was going to do those things. That we all had the very same red flags, red signs, telltale alarm, whatever you want to call it, Carlotta. We all echo that. It must have been at least 12 of us. And that's what, for me, it sunk my heart because I realized that we all failed ourselves. We knew those signs that were there. But
You're so right, Shayla. I mean, like I said, I've been in 2 isolated, when I say isolated, domestic violence situations, I mean 2 different relationships where the event happened once. Growing up, being abused by my father, in and out of foster care, abused by multiple foster care parents and things like that. I'm so grateful that I did not get comfortable being that person to get hit on. So I'm grateful for that, but I can't say it's never happened. Right. And I knew Just like you said, Sheila, I knew it was coming. Down the line, I knew. And it wasn't long before it showed its ugly head. Oh, my goodness. But guess what? I have some really great news, and I'm so grateful. Somebody must have been praying because
I have my fingers crossed.
listen, let me tell you something, Sheila. It had to happen. And I'm just so grateful that you and your team even developed this this video, and just to talk about what you're doing. So you all take a moment, let's tap in and just watch Sheila do her thing and basically listen to her as she shares some powerful words from her heart.
Hi, my name is Sheila Bryan. I am a licensed certified mindset coach. I am a mom and also the founder of the Empowerment Academy for Women, which focuses on helping women get back dominion over their minds and lives by conquering the most common challenges women face every single day. Now, I do this through dynamic teachings as well as conversations with powerful mavens. I'm excited to invite you to join me February 11th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Carlotta Taylor on the Heart of the Matter. I'm excited to see you there.
The Empowerment Academy for Women. Come on, with the strong purpose and message and everything. I can't wait to tune in. Thank you so much for sharing. That video was really amazing. So let's talk about the work that you're doing. How you overcame and then you turn around and get to work.
That's right.
How were you inspired to give back?
Oh, it all started in that shelter. I mean, I really caught the vision as I was going through my healing and I was going through the therapy and understanding that first I had to forgive myself, and I had to understand that, it didn't kill me. It can only make me stronger. And my strength came from really just submitting my life and everything that had already happened to me to Christ. And just accepting my new identity that I am a conqueror. So I begin to really call myself a conqueror. I'm an overcomer. And I begin to have that dialogue and that internal chatter, what we call that internal chatter. I call myself, a board meeting, right? I begin to just say little things like that. I'm just going to have a board meeting with myself, and I'm going to encourage myself, and I'm going to take on those practices that were given to me by my therapist. And I remember changing the narrative when those women heard my story. And also heard when I said my mom did not live to tell her story. So she's the real victim. So I said to these women, we are not victims. We are survivors in conflict. So because everyone was talking about being a victim. And I said, no, my mom is the real victim because she did not live to tell her story. But we are here gathered to tell our story. So I changed the narrative that day. And then the Holy Spirit began to deal with me and said, okay, I'm going to make you a midwife to the women. I'm going to put you in a position that your story will be to shift the narrative, to shift the mindset. And I did not know what that meant. I did not understand what that really looked like in the big picture. But here we are today, about 14 years later, right? That's what it looked like. It took 14 years to get here, but we are here. So that's where I was inspired from, just that place and the women. And I understood that I wasn't the only one. That's what really brought me to the vision that there's so many women who need, so they need someone to talk to. They need someone that can relate to them, because most people on the outside looking in don't understand what it's like to be in that situation, because it's easy to judge. So I love the idea of being someone that can walk that journey with the women before they end up in those relationships, or while they're in there, to just help them create exit strategies that are safe for them and their children, if they're moms, if they're not mothers, for themselves. Their life is that worthy. Their lives matter. So I'm here to advocate for those women, but most importantly, to create an exit strategy and to teach women not to go into those situations.
Absolutely. I love it. Wow. When purpose aligns. I want to share one little lovely thing about our guest today, Sheila Bryan, is during our conversations prior to the show today, we learned something about each other that was like, okay, wow, it was a wow factor. So I don't know if you all know, my birthday is June 24th, and we were just happening to be talking, and the vibes were so amazing. And I said, "When's your birthday, Sheila?" Because she just got so many good vibes, right? And she said her birthday is
Same day, June 24, baby.
wow. Blew me away. Well, actually blew both of us away.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Interesting. What is it? That was just very interesting. Nothing just happens. Nothing just happens. All right. So now you also have a book coming out.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Ooh, let me tell you, I got the vision of my book in 2018. And I basically was just in a space where there were so many women, because I continued to do a lot of advocating for domestic violence over the years. And in 2018, a bunch of women was like, you should write a book, man. You should just really tell your story, because what you've done and where you are today, and that was 3 years ago, is powerful. And I'm like, well, I'm just getting started. And the Holy Spirit, again, was dealing with me about telling my story. And I went on to Canvas, and I had a template, and I just put a little book in there, and I posted it on Instagram. And when I tell you the outpour of support, and it wasn't that I released the book, I was just putting the thought out there. And then I said to myself, okay, I'm going to start writing the book, and I'm going to just get to it. And I started it 3 years ago. I tell you no lie. I started writing this book 3 years ago, but it was just the right timing. It was just the right timing for me. So this year, 2021, I said, you know what? This is the year. This is the year I'm going to do it. So I hired an amazing publishing company, and I'm excited because they're so amazing to me. So now I'm going to put everything in this book. That way, when it lands in the hands of the women who are in these struggles, that they understand that you're not alone, number one, that you can get out, number two, that there is life after abuse, number three. There's truly purpose to live. There's really a purpose to live. So I'm writing my book for those women, and even for my daughters. I have 3 daughters, 2 of them who are teenagers, 18 and 17. And I want to pave the way for them to never go through that, to never experience what that's like, because it's not something we want to brag about. It's not something that we want to sit and have tea over, right? Or wine. Absolutely. So I'm excited to really put forth, my testimony of an overcomer. And that's what I talk about in my conversations, teachings, practical teachings, because in my book, there'll be practical teachings for women.
I love it. I love it. We got a lot of things going on kind of similar at the same time. But that's amazing. The more, the merrier. The more, the merrier. The word just needs to get out, and the stories need to be heard. Very impactful. So what's next for you? Do you know what's next, and any other things that you haven't shared with the Heart of the Matter audience that you would like to share at this time?
Yes, I launched my podcast as well. So you can definitely look me up on any platform. My name is Sheila Bryan, as you see it, and it will come up as the International Mindset Maven, because I am teaching these principles in both English and Spanish. Look at God. He uses me in a diverse way. And I'm also working on other conferences. I'm working on some great projects that will be released through social media as they're ready and signed and sealed. But there's some amazing things I'm looking forward as well with you. Some great things that we're planning to put out for 2021. That alone within itself is truly divine. And I can tell, I want to leave this with the women, that if you can really find within yourself the strength and the courage, which is my motto. I want women to become bold, courageous, and take action. The action is to get out. The action is to move. The action is to uproot yourself and be willing to leave everything behind. That's going to require boldness and courage. But you got to take action. You got to move. So that's really the one message that if I would leave anything, and I know you're going to ask me at the end of the show, but I want to emphasize that, because I know there's always going to be a replay, and there's going to be a time when this message gets out to someone, and it's never too late. Today could be the day that you say enough is enough.
That's right, Sheila. Sheila, nail it. Enough is enough. And I'm so looking forward to all the amazing things that we're going to be doing, God bless you, in the near future. It's going to be awesome. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be awesome. Wow. So one thing I think we forgot to mention, isn't your book available for pre-order right now?
It sure is.
How can they get their order in?
It's on my social media. They can go to SheilaBryanNow.org. So that's my full name, SheilaBryanNow.org. And there is a shop now link, and that is catered specifically for pre-orders of my book.
You are listening. Let's help her get her book on the bestseller list, because during the pre-orders, that's how we do it. You know, these stories need to be shared. You've heard Sheila. She's very transparent, so I'm pretty sure you got her here now, but I bet you the book is going to be a little bit different, because we never give all the nuggets, right? We want you to come in, and her story is going to be so impactful. I cannot wait. I'm going to make sure I get my pre-order in as well. And once again, last but not least, is there anything on your heart that you would like to share with the audience? And be sure to tell them how they can follow you on all social media platforms.
Well, tomorrow's a special day. Tomorrow I'm going to be officially released in the magazine Woman of Excellence, and I am Brown Beauty of the month of February 2021. So y'all look out for that tomorrow. To subscribe to the magazine Women of Excellence. It's just an amazing thing that God is doing in my life, and that's because I decided to trust God and to be faithful, to really be bold, to really take the courage and go forth and do the work that I know I've been called to do. Everyone has been called to do something. And I know that whatever we are called to do is always found in our stories, Carlotta. I'm sure it's your story. That's why you're so amazing yourself. That's why you're doing what you're doing, because it was in your story, it was in your journey. It was everything that you put together. I mean, you talk about a puzzle of your life. Everything is piece. But when you start putting it together, you realize, oh, okay, but that had to happen. Oh, okay, well, I understand why that didn't kill me. Now I understand that I can teach on that, right? You advocate for the children. You advocate for the women. You're a strong woman, and your presence alone is admirable. It is attractive. It's appealing, because it's strength that exudes out of you. But would this have been Carlotta if she didn't believe in herself and really accepted the fact that this really was her call? Trials and all, struggles and all, pain and all, right? So I want women to really hear my heart, because most importantly, I know as you and I collaborating on this show tonight, that we want to open our mouths and share our story. We want to be able to be authentic and vulnerable and not be ashamed, because shame can be anchoring. Shame can be crippling. But if you just lose your shame and you just own your story and own your journey, and I promise you, the lives that will be impacted will be totally amazing to just witness. Listen, God allowed me to see some women who were able to meet me back then when I wasn't who I am today. And now they have lived to see me, and I've lived to see those women. One of them, she's in Atlanta. I give a shout out to Miss Kaya. This woman is getting married. Let me tell you, we met in that shelter 14 years ago. So I'm telling you, when you steadfast and you go on that journey, we prayed together, we've fellowship together. I've traveled back and forth. She traveled back and forth. We've kept in contact. And 14 years later, God allowed us both to see what we prayed in that shelter, what we prayed for each other, what we have held on to God on the word. I'm telling you, that's powerful within itself.
That is extremely powerful.
14 years. So today, you and I, this conversation, God will show us another 14 years. So we can look back and say, this conversation was necessary. This show was necessary.
Wow. Do you have the anniversary date of that 14 years?
I gotta ask her. I don't remember around the time frame.
Wow. Something 14 years later.
14 years later.
You run into a woman that you were in a shelter with, and you are able to see and reflect. This is where we was 14 years ago, but here we are today. And look at you now.
Listen, wow. That's a witness. That's a witness and a testament to what it means to really hold on to faithful women of God. Like, they're faithful and they're true to their belief in Christ. They're true to that because they live it. So I'm just grateful for those women who cross my path, and I'm just amazed that God has allowed me to see what he's doing in their life. Because when I say this, when God shows up in someone's life that I know he's around the corner from me. So I'm excited for that.
That is so amazing. Shayla, your story has been so incredible. And I just love the way, we had a little technical difficulty with trying to get that beautiful video to play. And then it just worked out, still played. That's a great example of perseverance. That's a great example. Everything is not going to always go perfect, but in those moments, what do? Do you use it as a learning tool and push forward, or do you just give up? Me or Sheila was not going to give up.
Not at all.
I was like, I don't want to keep going. But thank you, Sheila. You have been so amazing. Your story is impactful. Please, viewers, whether you're watching this in real play or you got to catch the replay, please share and invite 5 friends that you love to watch with you. Thank you so much, Sheila. It was amazing having you on the Heart of the Matter show today.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be on this platform and share this space with you to encourage and empower. And once again, ladies, be bold, be courageous, but most importantly, take action. Pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Also, takeaway. We had a very special contest going on, and it was called Share the Love. It was the very first time that the Heart of the Matter ever held a giveaway, which I'm so excited about today. So I told you I would announce live during the show who the winner was, who the person was that showed the most love. What did you have to do? The only thing you had to do was share the actual post from the Heart of the Matter show page to your page. It could have been to other pages. Just share it as many times as you like. All right. Tag how many people? 10 people in the comments, right? And then it was a list of other things, something very, very simple. And whoever showed the absolute most love, not just on those days prior to the show, prior to this episode, but also during the show, the person who showed the most love overall. And that person, all right, is none other. Are you ready? I need to see somebody say, I'm ready to know who the winner is first. Before I even comment, I gotta make sure y'all tap in. I'm trying to see. Are y'all here? Are y'all there? I need to see some comments. I'm waiting. I got a few minutes. So I want to know the Heart of the Matter guest. I'm looking, I'm reading, I'm seeing hands up, I'm seeing hearts. I'm seeing I love this platform, but I want to see, are you all ready to see who is the recipient winner of the $100 they will receive on today? Y'all ready? I need somebody to tell me they're ready. I see somebody say, let's go. Let's go. Somebody said, we in the building. Oh, Latasha C. Watts says she ready. I see you, sis. All right. So that person is none other. Let me see. Let me go find a good comment, a good way. The person that showed the most love leading up to this episode and during this episode is none other than Shanita Chrysler. Coach Chrysler, congratulations. You are the winner of the $100 giveaway for the Showing the Most Love contest for the Heart of the Matter. And we thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. You all have been extremely amazing. All right. So remember to tap in. And until next time, see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Heart of the Matter. If you would like to sponsor an episode or be a guest on the show, email theheartofthemattershow@gmail.com. We look forward to seeing you next Thursday for another amazing episode.